I loved the last time I drew superheroes as Super Saiyans. It was a blast, I loved that video, and I want to do it again, but this time I'm going to get a little bit more specific and just do Avengers franchise characters as Saiyans. So that's what we're doing with this episode, but I also want to do something a little bit different with my style. See, I've found my own work getting a little bit stale recently. I want to shake it up a bit. And one of the best ways to do that, as I've mentioned before, is to take an artist you like and try to replicate elements of their artwork in your own work. So in this video, I'm going to be referencing Rob Duenas' artwork a lot. For anyone who doesn't know him online, he tends to go by Sketchcraft. I'll link his Instagram below. He's got so much awesome work, and his stuff is really stylish and cool. So as I go through the different pieces today, hopefully I'll figure out what pieces of his work I like best, that I want to work into my art going forward, and hopefully these pieces will get better and better and better, and by the last one, I'll have my style shaken up a little bit and feeling a bit less stale. But anyway, enough talking, let's get into the first drawing of Hulk as a Super Saiyan. Now, I've been requested a few times to draw the Hulk on this channel, and admittedly, the reason I haven't, I love Hulk and I think he's awesome, but in terms of drawing him, I've always found him a little bit boring just because he's kind of just big and muscly and green and has purple pants most of the time. And I just don't find that super interesting to draw. I tend to like drawing people whose costumes have a little bit more going on. So what I decided to do with this one was the reference image I brought in for his costume is from promo artwork for Avengers Endgame. I don't actually remember him wearing this outfit in the movie, but I don't want to spoil anything for Endgame, so I won't talk about that movie. But yeah, I decided to bring this suit in, but funny enough, I end up having most of it on his upper torso ripped off anyway. Like, I mean, that suit is obviously built for the Hulk to be able to, like, stretch with it and grow with it, but I kind of just wanted him ripped out of it anyway. I think it just looks really cool when Saiyans have ripped clothing coming off them, like their muscles got so big. And obviously for Hulk, I didn't make him more muscly than he normally is. But anyway, the other things that I did with this one, looking at Rob Duenas' art, was I tried to be more decisive with the sharpness of my angles, and like I made the muscles a little bit more rigid and blocky looking, and I really like how that looks in this one. And then the other thing is I just got a lot more specific with my line weight. Like you can see, the outer areas are a lot thicker black outlines and the inner parts are a lot thinner than I normally would do. Like, I usually mess with line weight a little bit, but I went a lot farther this time. You can also see I'm doing a lot more just sharp cel-shaded lighting. I kind of just felt like doing that more so looking at images of Dragonball Z because it is a cel-shaded show, and for animation you don't usually do anything painterly, and I like that for this one. So let's take a look at how this one turned out. Okay, it's not bad, but it doesn't feel that much like Rob Duenas' style. I kind of want to take a little bit more of his work and put it into my stuff, so let's go a little bit more exaggerated, take on the actual shape of his characters, and do Captain Marvel as a Saiyan. Now, as I said, for this one, I really wanted to lean into Rob Duenas' style in terms of the proportions of his characters. For these first couple roughs, I made the characters a little bit closer to what I normally do, and then for the one that I end up going with, I really tried to lean more into his style, where he does really long, big, thick legs and a really narrow waist. I referenced some images on his Instagram. His work is so cool. I highly recommend checking out more of his stuff. These body proportions don't totally end up working for me, not in the sense that I think they were bad. They're incredible when he does them. They just didn't totally work for what I like to draw. You can also see I did my hands and arms on this one a little bit more closely to what I would normally do. But I still really like how this one ends up turning out. It's a good next step kind of one. I'm glad I tried it out. You can see with the line weights, I'm still doing the same kind of thing. I might do a little bit less variation in this one, but I do try to keep it where the thick lines are on the outside and do thinner lining on the inside. And this one definitely feels more cartoony than the other ones. Also, you can see I added that sort of, the Captain Marvel often in the comics more so than the movie has like a, I guess it's not a scarf, like a belt scarf kind of thing that waves out, and I just love having that big kind of flowy thing. And a lot of the Saiyans tend to have kind of loose-ish clothing on them, whereas most superheroes tend to have really tight clothing. So I thought adding the belt and the flowy bit, kind of like a cape, was a nice way to bridge the gap a little bit between superheroes and Super Saiyans. And then you can see with her hair, I gave her mohawk. I didn't want to do the helmet because I'm not great at drawing that helmet a lot of the time, and I wanted her eyes exposed, but I still gave her the mohawk in her hair. Anyway, let's take a look at how Captain Marvel Saiyan turned out. Okay, I like a lot of how this turned out, but I don't think Rob Duenas' character shape, proportion, style really works for me. I think it works awesome for him, it's just not exactly one of the things I want to do with my work going forward. So let's go back a little bit more to my usual character shapes for this next one of Thor as a Super Saiyan. Yeah, you know what, this one I don't even think I'll show you the whole drawing. What I was trying to do was I really wanted to draw Thor with both hands on his axe on Stormbreaker, because I haven't done that before and I think it's a cool idea. But this drawing just really doesn't turn out. I think it's mostly because I kind of mess up the face, and just, it's not, let's skip ahead a bit, and you know what, let's just skip right to the end. I'll talk about it a bit, but I'm not happy with this one. Here's the final product of it. Yeah, no, this just, I don't totally know what's wrong with it. I know I really don't like how the face turned out. The eyes I made too big and kind of weird. I kind of like this dot on the shoulder, but I also think I want to do this a little bit more detailed. And also, one of the few things I like on this was the few spots where I did a little bit of cross-hatching. It's not even quite cross-hatching, just a couple extra lines transitioning between the shadows. So let's try that out a little bit more with a more detailed drawing and do Black Panther as a Super Saiyan. Now this one is where I really feel like I'm getting into the game, and it's funny, the first drawing that I tried right off the bat, I loved the pose. I had to mess around with the legs a little bit, but I really like this just claw extended, and I'm kind of getting away from Rob Duenas' style a little bit. I still make the arms and forearms really big and the hands bigger even than I'd usually do, and the back muscles I'm still making sharper, which is kind of inspired by what he would normally do, but then on the legs for this one, I make them smaller than I normally would, and his body's kind of leaning a little bit away, so it makes sense that his legs would be a bit smaller, but I definitely make them way smaller than Rob Duenas would, and that's kind of just an aesthetic choice at this point. I love his style coming from him, but from me it just didn't feel quite right. But anyway, everything else about this piece feels awesome. I love how the inking turns out. I think I do a great blend of line weights, maybe doing a little bit too much variation in terms of what I like to see out of my work, but it's really cool, and this was a lot of fun. I've never done a really good drawing of Black Panther before. I did one a long time ago in my old style that I think that old style was inspired by Rob Duenas too. But anyway, this one feels great. I never realized how much I love drawing Black Panther. I've always thought he was a cool character, just never really done a good rendered drawing of him, and his suit is really awesome, but the only problem for this piece is I kind of realized partway through that I was pretty much just making it Black Panther with a bit of Saiyan hair. I added some purple lining through the suit, because like when he does those, you know, remember in his movie he can like absorb kinetic energy or whatever and blast it back at people, and it's got a bit of a purple light to it. I thought that was really cool. But anyway, to make it a little bit more Saiyan-like, I added that Kai blast in his front paw that was originally just intended to be him clawing at someone, but I was like, let's add a little bit more Dragon Ball into it and put an energy blast kind of thing in his hand. And I'm really glad I did that. It was a good source of lighting for the piece, so the light was kind of coming from straight in front of him, and I think it turned out really cool. I also didn't just do cell shading. I faded some of the lights a little bit, but not too much, and I really like how this one turned out. So let's take a look at the finished product. Yes, 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 yes. There we go. This is it. I feel it. I really like this. There's some things that I don't know that I'd want to use in my style permanently going forward. I think I might have done a little bit too much with the line weight differentiation in terms of my personal opinion, in terms of what I want my stuff to look at. But this is a great next step. I love how this one looks. Let's try and incorporate these elements into the next one and do Iron Man as a Saiyan. Let's see how this turns out. Now this one starts out cool. I like my ruffs for it, I like the pose. I kind of mimicked the Captain America pose from the last time I did one of these videos, but I do like it. It was working out, I like the ruffs for it. I always have trouble drawing Iron Man's eyes. I don't know why, they're always a pain in the butt because they're supposed to be like the exact same size, whereas I like drawing eyes a little bit like varying, like one is squinting it. Anyway, that doesn't matter. I liked how the roughs were turning out for this one, and I decided partway through that I was gonna go with Goku's colors instead of Iron Man's colors, and that ends up being one of the problems of this piece, I'd say. And that might just be preference. I tend to like sort of yellow and red coloring better than a blue and orange. I'm not generally a huge fan of using orange in things, but I don't know, that's probably just a personal preference on the coloring thing. A lot of this other stuff in this piece I was doing as I've been doing. I do the line weighting, the thickness. I try to do a little bit less variation in the line weighting, and I think that ends up being a problem. I think I did like it better before when I was doing really thick outside and thinner inside and being I feel like I wasn't decisive enough with my lines in this one. But the other problem comes up when I get into the coloring, which I'm in now, and more specifically when I do the shading, because I realized from drawing this one, I thought I was doing it similarly, but something that I did in the Black Panther one was I did a lot more of that sort of light cross-hatching between areas of shadow and not shadow and just his regular coloring. I do a little bit of that here. You can see I did a little bit of it on his upper forehead, but I think in the last piece it really just made the piece pop that much more. It made it look more detailed, and it was way cooler. So I will make sure to do that in the next one, but here's the final version of the Iron Man Saiyan. This one feels like a little bit of a step back. I still like it, but I don't love it. And I think the reason I don't love it is I didn't do enough of that like little bit of cross-hatching between the shadows. There's not much. I think there's a tiny bit of that in here, but not enough. So let's do one more. Let's make it as great or better than the Black Panther one and do Spider-Man as a Saiyan. I think this one's gonna be great. What better character could I end on and do one of the best drawings of than Spider-Man? Anyone who follows this channel regularly knows that I love drawing Spider-Man, although admittedly, one of the main reasons I love drawing him is because his poses are usually really awesome. Like, you can just draw him in any dynamic, awesome, lunging, jumping, flipping kind of pose, and it works for him. But in this case, I kind of just drew him in a generic-ish flight pose, because he was, you know, going Super Saiyan, so he wouldn't really need to swing around because he can fly. And I like this pose enough, but I think that usually is what makes Spider-Man pieces better. So anyway, that doesn't really matter because I do love how this one ends up looking. I feel like all of the lessons I've learned from this video come through in this drawing. The line weight is great. I love it. I think it's really cool. It's got a good level of detail. The spider emblem, I kind of improvised in the middle. I don't know. I feel like I've seen something like that in a Spider-Man comic before, but I can't think of which version of Spider-Man it is. If you can think of it, let me know in the comments below, because I do dig the spider emblem on this. That was just kind of improvised on the fly. I mean, this is all kind of improvised on the fly, but you know what I mean. I also gave him the thick pants, the like baggier pants that the Saiyans tend to have, and I realized I hadn't done that on any of the other drawings, and I'm really glad I finally put it in one. I think it works really well for this piece. And this one just looks super cool. I also made his eyes still Spider-Man eyes, but in a sort of anime Dragon Ball shape, and I think that's really cool too. Also, you can see I'm doing a lot more of the like light cross-hatching between areas of shadow and not shadow, and I love how it looks in this. I really think that that is the thing that makes this style pop out, and it's just, I think it's so cool. I definitely want to use that more often going forward. This is some of my favorite shading I've ever done. Oh, I'm so glad that this has worked out and I've found something from this video that I want to use more going forward. Anyway, let's take a final look at Spider-Man as a Super Saiyan. Yes. I love this one. I think it's a bit of a toss-up between which one I like better, this or Black Panther. Let me know in the comments, which one did you think was the best? I'm torn. I really, really like this one. I think I like the pose of Black Panther better, but I don't know. Did you even like one of the other ones better? Tell me in the comments below, because I'm really curious which one people like differently, especially because there's different style twists in each one. Just let me know below. I'm very curious. Alright, I definitely like how a lot of this stuff turned out. I think there's some really cool things that I can work into my artwork going forward, and even if my style doesn't end up changing permanently, I am going to do this a bit more where I look at some other artists' work and incorporate it into my own work on this channel, and we can all see how my style does end up evolving, or not evolving. We'll see what happens. Anyway, if you like this, please leave a like, it really helps the channel grow, and subscribe because I'm going to do lots more stuff like this going forward, and leave suggestions for what other things like this you want to do. I really like these kind of mashup videos, the cool stuff as other cool stuff videos. There's a playlist of these that I'll link. I've done a whole bunch of these. They're my favorite kind of videos to make. Okay, I'm getting rambly, so I should wrap this up. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Christian Pearson of Popcraft Studios, home of the nerdiest art videos on YouTube, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.